24 minutes to 8 a.m. Arnold Sagawa here with you. This is Morning at NTV. Let's get into the, should I call it the main event of the day. We do have the MP for Kampala Central, Muhammad Nsereko, to just delve into the very, should I say, interesting State of the Nation address that took place yesterday from His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. Honorable Nsereko, many thanks for making time to speak to us.
You're welcome.
I love the white shirt.
Amazing. Good morning.
Good morning.
I love your suspenders as well. Remind me of Larry King.
This might take a while if we start complimenting each other.
Okay, good morning.
In today's Daily Monitor, I wouldn't even say I want to say on the top. The first page, there's, let's start with the State of the Nation address from yesterday, which I'm sure you watched. There's a retrospective kind of approach to analyzing the State of the Nation addresses from the past. They start from 2016. And I want to quote some of the president's speeches from 2016. He went on to say, "I'm not aware of any society anywhere in the world that is more democratic than Uganda as far as the forms and structures of democracy are concerned." Please.
Of course, yesterday we, like you said, giving an insight in the repetitiveness of the address of the president as he addresses the nation. Of course, it's his constitutional mandate every year to come and not only open up a session of parliament, but also give the state of the nation. Every Ugandan now knows that there are some statements and phrases that you'll always hear from the president of Uganda. The issue is the changing of the opening remarks of the speech. Now this time it was when we were seated somewhere in the bush since 1986 and during the war, we hatched a 10-point program. I can imagine my children listening. Actually, my daughter called and said, "Dad, I failed to understand what exactly the president was saying. You'll have to tell me much more." Because you see, there's a lot of detachment. You're talking about 1986, you sat in a bush or somewhere and devised a program, a 10-point program, which included, amongst others, restoration of democracy. And it's from the 10-point program that the president hatched his speech, or made his speech. If you realized and dug deeper, he said the restoration of democracy, number 2, restoration of peace and security. Then, of course, point number 3 was the consolidation of national security. Because
but
the 10-point program in itself was so repetitive. If you go into the program, consolidation of national security and elimination of all forms of discrimination.
But that's quite interesting because, if again, I refer to the Daily Monitor and move on a year later in 2017, the president says peace, development of infrastructure and human resource, wealth creation, jobs creation, and access, market access. So again, there's the issue of peace. Again, there's development of infrastructure. Again, there's human capital here. Almost the same things that you're alluding to here.
That's what I'm telling you, that let me get real time to explain to the people that it's repetitive, but it's based on an agenda. Which agenda is the vision of a few bearers, not of all Ugandans. You remember we used to start about the 10-point program. And who still believes that Uganda should be hinged on the 10-point program developed by a certain group of people who were fighting for whatever they were fighting for? Okay, they were fighting for the liberation of this country, and no one doubts that. Okay, hinged on a 10-point program. And now, if we were to even audit that very same 10-point program, whether true democracy was restored in this country. Now, that is subject to a deeper audit by everyone. Is true democracy just a manifestation through elections, constant elections, free and fair elections as they are perceived? Have courts of law come out to say that these elections were not free and fair, or were wanting? To what extent have we improved our democracy?
Right.
All right? So, can we talk about the restoration of peace and security? Now, that time will come when we are to audit the 10-point program. For me, that should be a speech that should have made on the NRM Day. Subjecting it to the 10-point program and the history of the liberation. What the countrymen wanted is the state of Uganda as it is. And to my fellow countrymen, the state of Uganda as it is the way you perceive it. Either one is your peace and security, because every country will talk about its peace and security. That's the state of its nation. The foundation of a nation is peace and security. 2, governance that you talk about. 3, its borders, how it relates with the foreign
policy.
Yes, both regionally and internationally. What is the regional and international perception of Uganda? And then finally, the strength of its economy. Now, those are the basic tools of the state of the nation. If you don't, whether it's a speech in the United States of America by a president there, or in Kenya or Malawi or Zambia or South Africa, these are the 4 tools you have to audit. The peace, security, and stability of people. Now, the question we should be asking, is every Ugandan peaceful? The president should have come and told us that as regards peace and security, well, last year, giving an account on what happened the other year and what happened today, how much crime was committed, how much crime was suppressed, how many people lost their lives, how many cases have been investigated.
Honorable, I want to jump in there, because you do raise a very, very solid foundation here, especially when it comes to addresses of this manner. Many people out there might not appreciate what goes into delivering such an address and speaking to your people in this particular manner. And I appreciate where you're coming from. But putting that in mind, I also want us maybe to give some credit where it's due, because the police report came out just a few months ago for 2019, and it was very clear that crime had gone down. Now, cognizant of that, when you listen to the older folk and they tell you that, guess what, 40 years ago there used to be wars, people were running around from Sentema to Mitiana, you know, that kind of thing, does he have a point to base much or a predominant bit of his speech on peace and security?
Listen, I have no doubt. That's not what we are doubting. Now we are auditing the state of the nation. You see, this is the president who should have presented this as the state of the nation. It's not the police officers, wherever they are, to tell you what happened and X, Y, and Z, you know. For me, I'm talking about the speech that the president made to the nation as he was addressing Parliament, and what would have been the expectations, saying, for example, we have improved the welfare of police officers. When you're talking about security,
do you acknowledge that these gains are there?
Can I first speak? Okay. Auditing the improvement in welfare of security officers, police, prisons, and because it is based on what you promised in the other budget. What was there in the other budget was that they would improve housing. It's your self-audit, by the way, from the past year. And this is where different presidents come in and say, this is what we promised in the other budget of, let's say, 2019, 2020, and this is what we promised, and this is what we have achieved. That is what you call the state of the nation. By showing the people, yes, our journey was from here, but now auditing ourselves based on the promises we made last financial year. We made the following promises in peace and security. That lives would be, you know, we shall protect lives of people and their property. That is one. How have we done it? We've done it by X, Y, and Z. This is the cost of securing yourselves. You now do not need to hire guards, private security guards, to guard your premises. Police has covered, we've recruited LDUs, we've done X, Y, and Z. But if I can tell you what happened day after day, there was a lot of torture. You saw that from even members of parliament. There was a lot of death from excited officers, partly from police and others from the local defense unit. There was, you know, there were very many skirmishes that were as a result of the, you know, engagement between the police officers and the local population. So how many people have been or have lost their limbs or have been maimed or have been killed as a result of the actions of the security forces? And he says this is something we ought to mitigate. Then he can talk about issues of robbery have gone down and X, Y, and Z, matters of rape and this and this. So that is peace and security guaranteed for an individual. Then he talks about the cost of the peace and security, that we took this budget as classified budget, 1.2 trillion to secure X, Y, and Z. We've improved our military, because he said we shall improve their welfare. Now, he would have been telling us, just because Ugandans don't audit what the president said in his budget speech. The budget speech of last year should reflect the state of the nation in this year. Just a second. So when you tell us about, when he talks about the housing, he promised to come up with about 10,000, 20,000 housing units for the army and police. The question is, where are they? He promised to enhance the wages of the security officers. To what extent have they been enhanced? Even if it's 20, 30,000, there is something reflective. So at the end of the day, then he could say that as Ugandan borders are secure, we've kept them secure, X, Y, and Z, then we've been hit by the scourge of the COVID-19.
I see.
The question would be, how much money was diverted from the security budget to fight COVID-19? Actually, the reverse is true. Much more money was picked from other sectors and channeled to the security to secure Ugandans from not only COVID-19 but also the involvement of the army in the fight of locusts. You remember that? The fight of locusts in northeastern Uganda, in Karamoja region. So the issue is, let us audit point by point that he puts forward. And the question to every single Ugandan outside there, are you more peaceful than we were a few years ago? From the community, from any threat outside, we were threatened, we were at loggerheads with Rwanda. What is it now that we've done better? These are things you should be talking about, that if our peace and security was threatened by, a looming incursion between Uganda and Rwanda, this is what we did as a form of engagement. And we can guarantee all Ugandans that, yes, now we can say there is less proliferation of arms through our porous borders, whether it's from Congo, South Sudan, or from neighboring countries. And we've guaranteed that no more Ugandans will be murdered like the way they were murdered. Then you talk about the cameras, and you say this is how much money we spent on the cameras. And this is the accountability we can give, that for every Ugandan that is robbed or where crime is committed, this is the accountability we can give on the cameras that we deployed. Why? Ugandans entrusted you with more than $190 million to procure cameras in order to boost their security and peace through proper investigation of cases. Of course, cameras do not deter crime, but they help in investigation of cases. Now, if the family of Nabukenya comes out to ask who are those that killed our person, and they cannot get an answer up to today, why? The cameras were not functional. We've seen people being dumped on, the Entebbe Express, and there is no footage, and no one can tell us why there is no footage. These are things we've been talking about in Parliament, day in, day out. So, peace and security covered. He comes to the economy.
Before we move on to the economy, you've posed some very fascinating insights on this particular conversation, and I want to ask you, is it time that if the president delivered a State of the Nation address, let's say at the Parliament with all of you there, is it time for us to morph into maybe a South African kind of approach, whereby then the president gets to answer questions from lawmakers? Because my question right now is, who gets to audit? Because it's not going to be an appointee, like, I don't want to name a name.
The Prime Minister.
It cannot be an appointee who then gets to audit, because right now some questions that you're raising do have a lot of weight.
Yeah.
So would it then be fair for, is the case in South Africa where Cyril Ramaphosa, after delivering his State of the Nation, then has to answer to Julius Malema, has to answer to Mabuza, has to answer to a lot of people from God knows the Northern Cape, everywhere.
Yes.
So is it that approach that we need to see? Because I, Arnold here, would be shot down if I wanted to run into the Parliament and ask the president something on a day of this magnitude.
And I mean, this reminds me, Arnold, of what has been going on during the COVID addresses. It is very bad for the handlers of the president that he should speak. Of course, this is the dictum of the law and our rules of procedure. which we need to amend to come to up to date. I mean, so that it's up to date with the, you know, with the democracy that we are talking about, that the president should be asked not through proxies, but he should be required to answer these questions himself. So that is something we can audit. It requires amendment of the laws. Unfortunately, we do not have the numbers that are required from our side of the opposition to move this amendment. Of course, that depends on the goodwill of the majority, which is the NRM side. And this is the reality we are facing. And when we call upon people to realize that, please help us, unless you give us a majority of those that think the same way we think, there is no way we are going to come up with whatever form of democracy you need, for as long as we don't control the legislature.
Before, I don't want us to get into the economy before we exhaust.
So that needs an amendment in law. So, I mean, that's speculative now. It needs an amendment in law. Without an amendment in law, definitely you cannot achieve that. But it would have been amazing, because these are questions that we would have put to him. In any case, he says, I'll send the Prime Minister. Yes, you sympathize. The Prime Minister can try to answer. He's very diplomatic. But he cannot contradict his boss in many cases.
You've touched on the elections. Are these still on course for 2021?
Well, for the matter of elections, all of us must be arrived to the fact that what does the country need first and foremost? If you went down to ask the people, what do they need first and foremost? Now, what is very important to them? Is it the elections or it's their livelihood? So the answer is that now that comes last. But so the question is, the Constitution, it's a command that we must have elections. And indeed, if that command is there, we should devise all means possible so that unless the Constitution is amended, I don't see us not having elections. We should have them. But I'm telling you to address that question to the ordinary person. If you just carry your camera of NTV and ask the person what is on their mind, that would come as issue number 4. And that's the reality. The issue should be, if I asked you now, what is your biggest problem? You'll say, maybe I have loans, I have rent problems, my business is going down, I'm not working, I've been laid off. Then finally you'd say, when do we change government next?
But you know, here's the way I'm looking at it.
In pecking order.
If you're to look at that order, I have loans, I have rent problems, I've been laid off. All that can be undone if yes. Muhammad Nsereko here and his crew, hypothetically, if you had a majority and were able to change whatever act that is there that is holding back things like this. Now, the reason why I say that is because, let's say, the loan issue, the credit, you can see maybe a revival of a commercial bank, the revival of national banks that are smaller and can push easy money and cheap money to ordinary people like me here. Now, that is an answer that is coming from the legislature because the same there's a new majority.
Yes.
You see that? So if you are to tell me that right now that is not top of the order, it's either livelihoods or, you know, elections. And right now,
can I tell you, it's a reality.
But are you seeing where I'm coming from?
I know where you're coming from, but it's the reality. We don't even, if everyone called you, if I handed you over my phone, 90% of the callers would not be calling you to ask you when are the elections. 90% will be asking for a bailout. These are like drowning people. Now, you set your priorities. The elections are on course, whether we want it or not. Now, that is not a question. The question is to ask the people whether they want to be what they are now in the next 5 years. And that answer they can answer on the ballot paper, whether you talk about it or not. You understand? So they'll know whom to elect. Now, what is the pain of the people now? Is the pain of the person who is at home, who is a mall owner. I mean, a mall owner who has to pay his credit, who is a tenant in a mall who has to pay his rent and also pay their credit as a result of the loans that they have accrued. At the end of the day, it's what they are thinking about. I have credit, I have rent at the workplace, I have rent at home, I cannot meet these obligations, I have electricity bills, water bills to attend to, then I have taxes to pay. At the end of the day, it's like someone who has just been put into a cell. If you're a lawyer, Mr. Sega, the first thing your client will ask you is, how do you get me out of it?
That's it.
It's not talking about, we shall have justice. He says, listen, before you talk about justice in the long run, I need you to secure my bail or my bond. All right? Now, how do we secure their livelihood now? By pressurizing the current government that has the tools of power now to implement because even if we want the change that we want, and indeed we want it, we want these people to meet that change when they are alive, and two, when they have thriving businesses. Let me tell you, an arm-twisted person who has been driven into poverty can easily be used to make a political decision against their will. Now, the first thing we have to do is to see to it that, yes, we create awareness to these people. That, listen, learn how to audit the speeches of the president, because they are best from the promises. They are based on the promises he makes every financial year, because the president is the minister of finance. That's why immediately after giving the State of the Nation, then the president comes with the national budget. Why? The rationale of the national budget is that it should be reflective of the state of the nation. Now, the state of the nation is that we are under lockdown. There is COVID. There are people that are not going to work for more than 6 months. There are people that have lost jobs. You're talking about 5 to 6 million Ugandans who are out of jobs. And the president comes and says there is the real economy and there is the vulnerable economy. Accepted. But what helps the other thrive? The money from the vulnerable economy is the money that has contributed taxes that have built that real economy. So it's interwoven. The way you analyze it might be different. I agree, there is what you call the real economy in his perspective, which other countries do not look at. If you tell the United Arab Emirates that your real economy is agriculture, they'll laugh at you. Because for them, their real economy is not agriculture. Their real economy is tourism. You understand? Tourism and being a hub for finance. So how do we reorient ourselves? Thinking that agriculture is the only basis for our development just because it employs, in a disguised manner, over 60% of Ugandans is wrong. Improvement in post-harvest handling is what shall secure and guarantee that agriculture helps us thrive. Revival of cooperatives. This is something he has said since 2015. We shall revive cooperatives. We shall revive cooperatives. This is the time for us to audit which cooperative has he revived. So, reflecting from the State of the Nation addresses and the budgets, there is one thing to say one thing and the other to actually do it. So, the president promises revival of cooperatives, then in the middle of the financial year, the money is diverted back to the classified.
Definitely, I'll be delving into that because you're on the floor of Parliament. You would know about some of the supplementaries and some divergencies here and there. We do have, if you're just joining us, the MP for Kampala Central, that's Muhammad Nsereko, joining us today as we talk the State of the Nation address that transpired yesterday. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with more Morning at NTV after this. You're still watching Morning at NTV. Arnold Segawa here with you. To get a sense of what is transpiring in the city, we're joined by Stephen Bide, our reporter in the middle of the city. Bide, I understand some people spent the night in the park. Just give us a sense of what you are seeing right now. Where are you?
Good morning, Arnold Segawa. Yes, I'm standing in the middle of the new tax park here in the central business district of Kampala. But after 72 days of a ban on public transport, many people were anxiously waiting for resumption of public means of transport. And yesterday, the 4th of June, many people woke up very early in the morning to trek towards this new tax park. And some few were able to get taxis that brought them here. But right now, many people came here at as early as 6 a.m. yesterday, but they spent the day here waiting for taxis to drive them out of Kampala. But even up to now, they are still here. They spent the night here in the cold night they were here. Many of them have told me they didn't feed on anything. They're just here waiting for any public means. But because KCCA is issuing directives and guidelines that have to be followed by every taxi driver before he sets out of this tax park or into the tax park, many people were left here stranded throughout the day, throughout the night, and even up to now, they are just standing here. Maybe they are willing to hear anything from their leaders, like the Kampala Central MP, who is Honorable Muhammad Nsereko, who is there in the studio. Maybe they are waiting to hear a voice for them towards either KCCA, to the government, and whoever, or Parliament. Maybe they can see themselves out of this tax park, because for now, taxi drivers here are saying they're not able to leave this place before they get the guidelines from KCCA, which they are saying it is so slow. For now, this is what's happening here. I'll be speaking to some of them. But for now, let me take you back to Arnold Segawa, who is in studio, and they'll be back with the views from these people and their experience throughout the night. Back to you, Arnold Segawa.
Stephen, many thanks for that. Stephen Bide joining us from the park. It's a very, very dire situation. It's a dire sight. It's very painful. Before we even get into how they spent the night in that open space,
without social distancing, no toilets, no nothing.
In the spirit of just humanity, I don't even know the right question to ask you.
No, exactly. Now, there you go. That is the exact thing we are telling you about. The detachment between the leadership and the actual people that they are leading. And when we talk about these matters, people say, oh, the Nserekos are talking about politics and politics. That's reality. Reality. Those that make policies, I remember telling these people that before you know that you're rich, just know that there is someone poor. And that journey you've trekked from poverty, some people have not been able to get that way up the ladder to the extent that you are. Segawa, you've seen the reality. Someone was traveling from Mityana, and that's what I was talking about. Now, what's the rationale for the curfew? When there is public transport, leave the public transport to move. You can even hinge the curfew on the private transport, and it's not even desirable anymore. It's not necessary. That's why I was telling you, when you have issuing directives with advisors that cannot advise you, it's a tragedy. So the reality is there. Someone is moving from Mityana and maybe going to Chireka. The taxi must drop that person in the taxi park. Probably they are going to Mukono. They have luggage. They cannot carry it in their head. They have children. Then how do they move? With all this traffic, they come from Mityana. They reach at 3:30. There is no taxi. So you're saying you're opening up 28,000 matatus, which we refer to as public transport, because government renegated its responsibility on the management and investment in public transport. And now you've put up stringent measures that are not met with enough manpower to implement them. KCCA doesn't have those numbers to register those matatu owners.
Were you consulted on this?
We are not consulted, but I can tell you, these people are taking advantage. They are taking advantage. In so doing, they are forcing out these people. They are forcing out these people. It's not all about rearrangement of the public transport system. And why do it now? We are saying you can do it in a phased manner. We want it in a good way. It's not the time now that you have to pounce on people and tell them you have to bring your logbook. Do you know how many people have been indebted? These people are driving these matatus that are due, with loans that are due onto these matatus or these vehicles. Because the reality we are living in Uganda is that as we glorify the investment that is coming from abroad, that is backed up by low interest rates, Ugandans have to borrow and mortgage their property to the banks in order to run businesses. So Ugandans start building businesses on borrowed money and at a high interest rate. That is why you find it that the best thing they can invest is probably transport that earns them that daily income so that they can easily service their loans. Now, going back to the disorganization that you've seen, where is the social distancing there? If there is someone with the COVID-19, God forbid, there are about 1,000 people there. And more are still coming today. And yesterday you could see the pain of the people on the roads. You've promised that there will be public transport. You promised that there will be masks. The masks are not there because you're having advisors that do not live up to the standard of the real advisors. They fear the president. They cannot tell him that, Your Excellency, what you're saying is not really right. No, I'm being very fair and honest.
Mohammed, I want to ask you a personal question. Have you ever sat down with the president, well, long before, when you were still
yes.
a man of yellow,
yes.
and you speak up to
yes,
him like
yes,
this?
Yes.
And how did that end?
Yeah. No, it's okay. During that time, I don't know, the president must have changed quite a lot. During that time, he could listen. Right. But gradually, he became the person who, you know, dismisses everything. And ours started, you remember, when on the issue of, it was actually what had happened in the party. But that is something I can talk about in the future. The issue as to whether someone would serve as Prime Minister and Secretary General. The same president who had made that promise to party members, we are breaking the same promise. And we said, no. You remember the issue of the right
ultimately the renegade.
Yes. Then later, there was the issue of, you know, becoming insensitive to the rule of law, and the president was saying we should scrap bail. And I remember General Kayihura was very anxious. We should scrap bail for people charged with treason. And I told him, I remember, listen, if we do this, just know one time you'll be charged with treason. He didn't believe that at one time he would be charged with such offenses. Today, I think the happiest man that there is bail is General Kayihura, because he's out on bail. This is what very many people disregard. That for as long as you're close to the president and you see anything that is coming up in form of a directive or in form of amendment of the law that does not favor the true path of democracy, please oppose it. Or tell him that I respectfully disagree with you.
I definitely hear you.
Okay,
and that's
so
why I asked
disagreements were many on handling of the economy. Later he found out. I remember the introduction of Musisi and high excesses. You remember people who were killed in form of enforcement of directives by the enforcement of KCCA. The later Agaba shot and killed people in Luzira. You know, these are things that we said, you know what, enough is enough. Then when it came to the issue of oil and gas, we had our reservations until finally he said, you know what, you're expelled from this party. So when he expelled us, we said, okay, we accept and we take it with, it's a party we've served. We wanted to continue serving it. Unfortunately, you're comfortable with people who will tell you, whom, with the character of people whom you can tell that, listen, this shirt of mine is blue, and they say, yes, sir. And then you say, no, I had forgotten the shirt is purple. Then they say, exactly, you're right. Then you say, no, it was green. Then they say, you're the most correct leader. You know? Right. So, but the reality is, you've shown us on camera. And this is the power of the media. As we are seated here, that's the state of the nation. That's the state of the people that are stranded in the taxi
Definitely. And we're out here maybe in an AC. There's a few guys who are watching us, having a cup of coffee, enjoying a good show going on with their Central MP, Muhammad Nsereko. But what is in the park there is quite tragic. I want to, it wouldn't be fair to just have our views here or have your view. I'm only a moderator here. I want to, on today's Daily Monitor, I think it's page 8, where there's the voice of Peter Kauju, the Kampala Capital City Authority spokesperson, who offers a clarification of sorts. He says, quote unquote, even for those that had registered, this is with the cars, with the city authority, they did not have the PSV, that's the public service vehicle, and third-party licenses, so they could not be allowed back on the road. Both PSV and third-party licenses are issued by the Works Ministry. Now, again, this is cognizant of the fact that, again, the Daily Monitor reports that for the taxis to come back on board, the whole route charts and the registration is between 650,000 to 1 million Uganda shillings. But people haven't been working for close to 3 months.
Exactly.
So, again, this goes back to, do these, as a member of parliament for the Central where all this is transpiring, how are you so left outside this whole decision-making process?
You see,
because I'm just lost here.
I cannot grapple with that because that's the policy that they want. That's the policy, I mean, the use of might versus reason. So you realize that someone has dropped off the road and maybe has been knocked. The issue is who should save that person and take them to the next hospital for first aid. One tells you wait for an ambulance even if it takes 30 minutes. The reasonable one says, I mean, put them in this car and we can get them there so that they get first aid. Now, Ugandans that have been locked down, actually the matatu drivers have been locked down for more than 75 days or 76, precisely. Because matatus and school teachers were the first victim. And I can tell you, without fear of contradiction, these people are not alive to the reality of what people are going through. And that is what you've seen in the United States of America. That's the pain. My friend Kawuju paid maybe 12 million shillings of what this guy has been paying in form of tax. When did KCCA realize that these guys did not have PSV? A month ago, 3 months ago, these guys were paying them money. Why were they receiving money in form of taxes from these guys who are paying 120,000 shillings every month for every matatu? From these guys, you are receiving money from guys that didn't have PSVs. Is this when you remember that they didn't have PSVs? Double standards. Double standards. They are paving way for creation of a bus system. And we've not said no. For goodness sake, we are saying let buses move in the same market with the matatus and the border borders, and we can regulate all of them.
But the problem is the infrastructure is not there. There are no roads.
The infrastructure is there. We have Pioneer buses. They are parked right down there in Nambole.
No, I mean the roads.
It's not that the roads.
Bus lanes.
Let me give you an example. Do you know why you take a border from, let's say, I'll give you an example of someone in Nigeria, okay? Because men commute from Nigeria. Now you stay in Nsasa. There is no taxi that goes up to Nsasa. The taxi goes through Chira, that main road. That's why you take a border. The reason is the taxi cannot guarantee you accessibility, or the bus, even if they paved way for the bus, that bus will not take you to the exact spot where you want to stop and maybe walk shortly.
How about the city center?
Just a second. You'll take a few kilometers to walk. And the reason as to why people have public transport in other countries that we want to copy and reflect is because there is a beautiful road network that everyone is guaranteed that every 300 meters you'll access a bus that will come on time.
Is that?
So you're trying to implement something without laying the backbone or the foundation. So if all those that are stranded in the taxi park could access the railway station down there, and we are sure that even if we have these locomotives that can move these trains, the passenger trains, they could access different areas. So if we had a train moving to Mukono, because the line is there, but it's not functioning. So if you would get out in Chinawataka, others get out in Mukono, then, you'll have put an option.
Right.
Now, the Ugandans do not have an option. It's either privately owned Ubers that can move them, or the matatus that are also privately owned, but regulated by the city authorities. Now, the regulator is making it impossible for these guys that have to give, that have to give society a service to even perform it. Is it the time now, when people have been unemployed for this long a time, to ask them for 1 million shillings? The answer is no. That is, actually, if you don't feel that pain for this guy who runs a matatu, then you'll have to feel it when they call you to pay school fees when you've not been working. Ugandans have that attitude. I do not care. It's not me.
That's not my
so
problem.
Everyone cries on their own. When you talk, I'm the member of parliament for nearly all business persons. When they touch those in malls, honorable, fight for us. Now those in taxi parks, honorable, fight for us. Now those in the markets, honorable, fight for us. But the issue is here, I'm trying to tell you that the insensitivity of Ugandans is to that extent that if it doesn't affect me, I don't mind if it doesn't affect that other person. But let's sympathize with those families that slept in the taxi park with no food, with children there, women there. They could be raped. Anything can happen. And no one is interested in their livelihood.
Honorable, on that particular juncture, let's head back to the park and just speak to these people and not just not just think about what they were going through. But let's just cross over to Stephen Bide, who's going to just talk to these people and just try to understand. Stephen, just indulge us. How was the experience for these people who spent the night in the park? Where did they even sleep? I'm seeing children just behind you.
Yes, Arnold Segawa, last night police from Audit Kampala had to reinforce their officers down here in the new tax park to make sure that these people who slept here have enough security of their property and their lives. But now let me first of all speak to them, how life was throughout the night, because I know they came very early in the morning. Say what's out here?
Bulungi sewa.
Amanya go wadde ovawa.
Amanya bampita Tumuhirwa Abrahamu. Nsinzirirawo erugala.
Ekiro kyabadde kitya?
Kiro kyabadde kibi nnyo, bantu basuze mu mpewo, abamu bazze eggulo ssaawa 8 ez'emisana.
Ku lulwo njagala ombule kyabadde kitya?
Kyabadde kibi nnyo kubanga empewo etufuuwa, tewali mmotoka, bantu batusaze ensawo. Kwegamba embeera eri bwetyo bagamba mukulembeze yate emmotoka, n'emmotoka tewali mmotoka yonna egenda. Kwegamba nti abantu bali awo bali sitaaka, batuuse okwevuma Uganda yaabwe ate nga badde bajaagala.
Okay, kandabeko n'omukyala ndabo wano. Nyabo, wafunye ekyeggulo?
Nedda ssebo.
Wadde ova wange olaga wakyabadde kiti ekiro?
Navudde Masaka nga ndaga Jjinja. Natambudde bubi nnyo kubanga okuva e Masaka otuuka e Kampala nakosezza emmotoka nnya, ng'ate buli mmotoka teri yandeetedde bwerere ate teri yandeetedde layisi. Zonna nga zinseera okukamala. Natuuse mu paaka wano e Kampala ssaawa nga 9. Nasiibyewo omusana gwanjokyezza, nina omwana, sente zampeddeko, omwana nkaabirira. Nasuzeewo, empewo yanfuye n'omwana, kyemmanya agenda nakugjamu obulwadde. Nakaakati sirina ssuubi yonna, oba ŋŋenda oba sigenda.
Kibi nnyo, kandabe n'omuntu omulala ate ye ambulire experience ye yabadde etya. Ndaba wano abaana abato. Oli otya baby? Okay. Kandabe baby nyakuyambako wano. Kandabe omukyalo omulala alina ku baana kubanga mmanyi ate embeera y'abaana bo ekiro nabo ebeera ya njawulo nnyo. Kandabe nnyabo what's otya? Good morning to you. Where are you coming from and where are you heading to? Raido. How was the night? Okay. You know what you were gamba. It was really a bad night for them. Nyabo se wasotya.
Mwenye sewa.
Waddo pawera ekyo kyabadde kitya?
Nze nomuna navudde Gomba nga nzize kusuubula n'emmaali yange gye nasuzeeko wali. Emmotoka baaziganye naye mbadde nsaba gavumenti we beekola ebintu ebimu yandibadde ng'oluusi yalibadde egambye abatakisi nti tubasibye ebbanga bweriti mwewandiise omwezi gumu then mugende okuyingira nga mumaze okwewandiisa, so si ku bantu kuva mu byalo kuba kati abantu badduka bava mu bibuga baagala kudda mu byalo ate batuuse mu paaka temuli wadde motoka n'emu. So ekyo kibadde kibi nnyo eri abatambuze. Gavumenti yalibadde ekyusaamu newe ebbanga nga lya mwezi gumu nti mugende mwewandiise bagende okusumulula emmotoka nga buli omu yeewandiisizza, naye abantu okujja okwokomakirira mu kibuga we bati kibadde kibi nnyo era kituyisizza bubisi.
Okay, this gentleman says he wants the government to at least come in and help them get transport out of this place because many of them came here and they want to leave this place. Nyabo, what's the other?
Bulungi, sizotya.
Wadde ovaawa ekiro kyabadde kitya?
Va nasana. Natuka teri motoka. Tambudde bigere, mbona nasuuze wano nasuuze nzala, sirina sente. Takuya genda Busoga, sirina sente. Paka sawa nosuuze nga tilidde.
Okay. Kakati ekiro wakiyiseemu mbuze walidde ekyeggulo?
Siyalidde ku kyaggulo.
Kati kyogala kibe nga kikolebwa mu mbeera endi kubanga muli bangi, emmotoka tezimuziraba, kikyogala kikolebwa abakulembeze bakulaba kati.
abanga simanyi benye bamanyi kye bakola simanyi.
Okay. This lady wants you, the authorities, to do anything for them, but because this is the new tax pack, let me speak to some of the taxi authorities here, because here they must be having their executives here. Sebo, abantu bano babatunulidde mwe ba taxi. Lwaki temubajja wano?
Sebo,
amanya bo Sebo.
Okusooka amanya Kizito Sande Salongo. Twebaza President Rukizo okuddamu otambula. Tumwebaza nnyo. Naye era tusaba President taata w'eggwanga nakazadde w'eggwanga atuyambe baterewo enkola ey'amangu ennyo gye bayinza okwanguyamu ofuna lutukyati ne lutukyati nzibu nnyo ereese bino byonna era tusaba atuyambe bagonzeemu okusingira ddala oluguudo lw'ejjinja lukoseddwa nnyo so nga ate tewalikoseddwa nnyo luvaako sipiika w'eggwanga Honorable Kadaga ffe waffe nze ndi wa Mityana Mubende ffe twayambiddwa nnyo omukyala Ana Amelia Kyambadde tulina minisita Julius Nabakoba ne Ssuubi Kiwanda naye abantu b'ejjinja baasuze wano balina obwana obuto abakazi abamu balina embuto teebereza omukazi okuswana olwaleero tannanaabako na mu liiso bwe njogera eriiso ndowooza okitegeera
kakati Sebo mmwe bakulembeze bapaaka eno abantu bano balina essuubi mwe muyina emmotoka baagala muveewo mubasayidde magezi ki?
obuzibu ne buli ku akuli ebidduuka mu kampani emirano omwami Norman Musinga ledde amateeka makambwe nnyo era ne KCCA nayo etukalubiriza nnyo nga omanyi ebya gavumenti mulimu okutomeregana Lord Mayor ayogera kino Senkulu ayogera kino naye enkolagana ebanga ebintu tebitambula bulungi naye tusaba tuyamba abantu abakyala balina embuto balina obwana obuto omulwadde wa kansa wuuyo omulaba tannafuna ng'egi atambula kuva ne baasuze wano baasuze empewo tebalina ke balidde tebannaba na kunaaba bonna nga bwe balaba tusaba tuyamba tusemoloka nga 2 zijjewo abantu bano nga naffe twayambiddwamu ku nguudo ezaffe eza Mityana ne tusana ejjinja ebenge eyambibwa.
Kakati abantu bano tebalina mazzi kabuyonjo ntono ate za kusimbira line mu paaka kati mukoze mutya kubanga abantu bano bali wamu tulina obulwadde wa COVID-19 ate n'ebyebuyonjo endwadde ziva ku buyonjo mukoze mutya okulaba nga tubawa kusiiga ndwadde ate n'abantu bafuna ndwadde ziva ku bujama.
President yekka alina otuyamba President y'eggwanga atuyambe baana okusiiga obulwadde kugenda kubeerawo kwa maanyi ate gavumenti ebenga efulumya ssente nnyingi. President atuyambe abeeko ekiragiro kyalagira Honorable Katumba amala abantu bave wano oba kuddamu kusibamu nnaku nga byadde mwasi naye essaawa zino abantu bajja kulwala.
Osembayo
amanya gange nze Simba Talenule nkolera ku segi y'Emityana Mubende
ne mu bufunze bw'ekitalo kyekiba kikolebwa mu mbeera eno
ekisasabye President kutuyamba kututa bwe babanga abasazeewo kututa kutandika kukola twewandise ng'emmotoka zitambula abantu bali mu mbeera mbi ffe twavidde muno ku ssaawa 12:30 jjo ng'abantu abali muno badde abolinga bano emirundi egi ne mu mbeera eno eriwo gavumenti etuyambe kusinziira ku kiraba kuba bino babiraba basobole okuyamba abantu mu mbeera gye balimu enzibu abantu batambula abantu balwadde nga bwe mubalaba abantu basuze enjala abantu bwe tuba nga tulwanyisa COVID kubanga tumukwewa social distance tekyasoboka kuba tutunulire nga bwe tufaanana ku ssaawa eno katugenda kuyambibwa ki mu kututa kwe batutadde kitasa tebatutadde n'obuzibu obulala gye tukolera emirimu gyaffe twagenza okuva mu lockdown stage y'Emityana nga sente zaffe zino zonna bazitwala abakulembeze baffe emiliyoni 9.95 tuli mu kulaajana gavumenti naye tuyambe mu mbeera eno.
Thank you so much. These are the views from these people, the taxi authorities and the people who spend their night here after the resumption of public transport. This is what is happening here on the ground in the new tax pack. We expect that maybe the leaders, KCCA, Minister of Transport and Works, as well as the Parliament would come up and come up with measures to make sure these people resume, at least go ahead with on their way wherever they are heading to. This is what is happening here on the ground. Stephen Mbidom, Fefeswe Chibuga. Now taking you back to Arnold Segawa, who is in the studios here on Morning at NTV. I'll be back shortly.
Stephen, many thanks for that. If you're just joining us, those are live sites from the new park with, of course, our reporter Stephen Bide. In the studio, we do have the Member of Parliament for Kampala Central. That's Muhammad Nsereko. to just try and unpack all of this. We'd already touched the issue, the trials and the tribulations in the park and public transport, but this just sheds a very, very dire light. I want you in just about 3 minutes to just sum this up. Then we move on to the economy and where it stands.
I would like to be as elaborate as possible so that those people understand, even those that hear. Like you heard the woman say, Sasoma in Rusoga, that I don't even understand English in the Sasoma. So atasoma oyo njagadde naye mubuuliremu katono ategeere so that everyone is aboard with us on this program, all right? Omuntu oyo olwaleero omugambye nti nziguddewo transport, nziguddewo ebyentambula, emmotoka ezimu zaali Mubende endala nga ziri Kampala, eziri e Mubende zandize zitya ziregisteringa e Kampala kubanga bwe waggalawo, when you close down everyone remained where they were. So everyone went out. Taxi zaali e Mubende zasigala Mubende, ez'e Masaka ziri Masaka. However, zitransporting abantu bano ne zibaleeta wa mu Kampala in order to join up. So it can't be unilateral that KCCA sets its own standards. Therefore, the standards should be for public transport in the entire country. Why? Because one feeds into the other. Taxi evudde eri Antonde, eyiwe Masaka, eye Masaka neyiwe Mpigi, eye Mpigi neyiwe Kampala.
Sorry, I want to understand this right.
To
You actually raise a very interesting point. So, hypothetically, would the taxi that's coming from Liantonde have to stop on the border of Kampala? Or would it have to feed into the new park? Sorry,
logic. That's why I was telling you, some of our friends do not first reason. They just act. First reason. And you have the greater master plan for public transport in the entire country. Then you start implementing it in a phased manner. Omusajja gw'osaba PSV avuga long route. The person you're telling to pay PSV drives a long route, moves all the way from Gulu. From Gulu, he has to bring people into Kampala and return. Now, where is his parent
passenger?
Parent, park of operation? Is it in Gulu? Or is it is in Kampala? So if we have different licensing policies in Kampala and Gulu, that creates confusion in itself. That's why you saw that most of these persons, because for those ones dealing in transport in Kampala think just because Kampala has a taxi park is a convention, is a center of conversion of all those that are dropping off and all those that are working in the mass transit in the city.
It's like Central Station.
Yes, but 90% of those people transiting using public transport of matatus in the city are not coming necessarily from Kampala. They are coming from Entebbe, they are coming from Namugongo, that is Wakiso. They are coming from Wakiso, they are coming from Jinja, they are coming from Mukono. Now, there are different rules, set of rules in Mukono and different set of rules in Kampala. Does someone realize that this public transport is transboundary? It moves across boundaries within the metropolitan. Therefore, are these plans and implementation of these plans and guidelines that Kampala is issuing subject to even matatus that are coming from without Kampala? That is what I'm telling you about that. You've had the situation of a woman moving from Masaka. Going through different set of rules. Eno bamusabye mutwalo, bwatuuka wano 15, bwatuukire Kampala spendize emitwalo 4. She has kids, she has to move on. Kakati, maama gwatuddaawo, embeera y'eggwanga yeeyo bw'ogiraba nga bw'eri. Tusaba otusonyiwe bino ebyayitira, naye ekireeta bino, I want to address them, typical. Ekireeta kino, be bantu baffe, abalowooza nti bateeseza abantu, oba abateekerateekera abantu, obutasooka kulowooza, okukozesa ebbogo, nti okutekinga advantage bakozesa ekifuba, so kozesa obwongo. Ate nga n'abawabuzi, abantu babudde, kati wulira abantu bonna, njagala omwami oyo abadde ayogera, musajja watwala ajana, omukulembeze w'eggwanga. That is the total barrier of institutions. The president, you cannot become the land of every solution, the last resort. please, Mr. President, free us. Please, Mr. President, government, where are you? That same question of everyone yearning for the president, that is what has brought destruction and total crashing of institutions. We need, to empower leaders at local levels. That should have been work of the urban, municipalities. That should have been work of KCCA and led by the authority. Why? Why do we refer to people's representatives? Would the government, would the president ever be comfortable if he was receiving orders from technocrats? I mean, we are the voices of these people. They have elected local councillors. They have elected the Lord Mayor and his council. They have elected the local urban councils. Let these urban councils sit and devise means. The issue of usurping powers of local leaders is not good. That is why they have destroyed the institution systematically, and everyone is saying, Mr. President, we don't have water. Please come to our rescue. Mr. President, we've slept here. Please lift your directives. These directives are not well thought out. I remember when I clearly came out and challenged that the masks will not be ready. And can I repeat, the president said that by 10th, by 10th of June, masks will be given out. I challenge you, the masks won't be given out.
Honorable,
we are here, and I want you to quote me. The
definitely.
masks won't be given out in the country. Now, finally, the question is, who should be charged for attempted murder? I remember the president coming out and saying all those that gather people together are idiots and they should be charged with attempted murder. Just because Ugandans do not want to speak out. Who should be charged with collecting all those masses together, making them sleep in the same area, emanating from different areas where we have very many COVID patients, being put together in public transport and being littered into the taxi park? No health facilities, nothing, no social distancing. That is the biggest hub for people to fall sick. Now, who should be charged for attempted murder?
I think that's we'll leave it right there for that question. It's one of those thought-provoking questions that you need to leave to the people to answer for themselves.
Why was Zake being beaten, if I may ask?
No.
For giving people food. Listen, these are people that have stayed there, they are starving, they have eaten nothing in the entire night, just because of a decision that was carried out by some irresponsible Ugandan who thought they are the alpha and omega of thinking.
Honorable, the Zake issue we would touch on a different day.
There you go.
Let's move on to the economic issue, because this being the member of
So we should
Parliament,
brush that aside?
No.
That's all right.
That's now a very, very different
It's
conversation.
a glaring reality.
No, it's I don't want to get into a philosophical conversation, but the Zake issue is one that might take yet another hour of our time. Yet we're actually running out of time. We need to touch this other issue of the economy. Now, there's an 11-point stimulus package that was put forth by the president. One thing that was quite interesting is that some money, some Uganda shillings that were discovered through an audit of the budget, Operation Wealth Creation, saw that there are some spend that could actually be avoided. This was brought forth by the president. Let's start there very briefly, then we touch on all these issues. There's a lot to go through. We actually don't have a lot of time.
Listen, the president talks about a stimulus without acknowledging that people are going to get out of their jobs. That's why I was saying to you, our failure to audit the last state of the nation and the budget that was done and its performance. So, can we have experts? Can we sit here and say, this is what the gentleman promised in 2019. This is how far we've come. This is what they spent. This is what we have achieved. As I tell you now, we have over 5 to 6 million people that are going to lose their jobs. Now, the issue should be, because we don't have job centers here, where people can go and say, I'm unemployed.
Claim
unemployment, because there are no benefits that are accruing from that. The people were very clear, and the president is clearly evading and navigating some questions because he has failed to answer the fundamental question of a clear stimulus. He says, our government is so strong and it will come out of this. We don't need any help. And is the same person presenting loans worth of $1.2 billion to the Parliament of Uganda, seeking help from the IMF and seeking budgetary support from other banks. Why? the budget cannot be fully financed. Now, it is so contradictory that there is one face he gives Ugandans and there is the real face that we get in Parliament when you see loan after loan, loan after loan, loan after loan.
Give us a sense of these loans, though. I know the
Goodness
IMF one. The
you're
last
talking
one
about
that,
you're
we just
talking
got.
about nearly 4 trillion.
Who are the biggest creditors that we have?
Okay, there's
World Bank.
IMF, there are different banking institutions, European banks that are giving us actually commercial, semi-commercial loans. And you know, because...
These are not concessional.
No, some are not concessional. Most are not concessional because, you know, we want to fund infrastructure, but we cannot fund it ourselves, and we say our budget is performing.
Are you worried about the Chinese?
Absolutely. If anyone is not worried, I'm worried about everyone that is giving us loans, whether it's from China or it's from anywhere, because at the end of the day, that shows that, you know, we've not rallied Ugandans to realize that, look here, we have a problem. And let the president be candid enough to tell Ugandans, just like you're indebted, this government is also indebted. Because for the last 3 years, the central bank, which is the lender of last resort, Bank of Uganda, has filed for losses. And therefore, we have to capitalize the same Bank of Uganda. So if Bank of Uganda has filed for losses, and we have to recapitalize it, what about you? It's the lender of last resort. What about the ordinary Ugandan? For me, I still believe the stimulus of the president is misjudged. Why? For me, it should be this way. That let us borrow as Ugandans to address the issue of loans and credit for every single Ugandan that is indebted. So why, let's ask ourselves, why did Ugandans get this debt, just like the government got their debt? The reason was to start up a business. Have their businesses been frustrated? The answer is yes. Whether it's a manufacturer or it's the person in the chain of the manufacturer, the distributors, the wholesalers, the retailers, to the consumer. Therefore, if we do not protect the credit of that chain, even if the manufacturer remains operating, with no one in distribution, with no one good enough to have the real income to consume what they produce, we shall only be postponing their collapse. By, let's say, a few years. I'm trying to tell you this. The producers of sugar at the moment have said they are stuck up with the stockpiles of sugar. Reason, there's no one with the ability to consume it.
Definitely.
The distributors have collapsed.
Yes.
The consumers do not have the real income. At the end of the day, you produce the sugar,
and
you incur the costs of employees, and you cannot break even.
This is something I touched in sort of a lecture I had yesterday, and it was just breaking down the GDP equation, something that's very simple: consumption, investment, government spending, exports minus imports. And it's interesting that you bring this up, because you can produce for years. If there's no one consuming, it's a waste. That's what's happening to crude oil right now. That's why
amazing, Sega, you're spot on.
Yes,
I'll give you an example.
That's why the futures prices have actually dropped.
Let's not even go far. The president has said there are people producing masks. All right? How many Ugandans have the capability to buy masks? So at the end of the day, he is saying, yes, there is a factory that has come up to produce masks. How many Ugandans can afford the KN95 or the N95?
N95 too.
You're right. The N95 is at about retail price $7, about 25,000 shillings, 30,000 shillings. Now, how many Ugandans can afford that? At the end of the day, government is going to get the tax of Ugandans and pay the person who has set up that factory in the name of giving out free masks. And the best stimulus would have been not to fund that guy only directly. It would have been get all the guys that were taken through this issue of skilling, you know, tailors and others, show them the style, give them the standard, and tell them to produce.
It has happened in Kenya, actually.
Yeah, then let government support them by giving them money, procuring what they have done. We can trickle down that 38, 40 billion that is meant for the masks for all small players in Uganda, so that even the lady in Bushenyi, even that gentleman in Mbale, on his sewing machine that has produced a mask, is assured of a market For government will consume, and the surplus will be consumed by the people.
Honorable, we've actually run out of time. This is what they say about good things. They just time just flies.
Yes.
Two things I want you to touch on the economy. One is pay as you earn. Now, Kenya, just across the border, cut the pay as you earn rate by close to 2 percentage points. Here, they're only, I understand the president in his stimulus package is cutting down, is just deferring the payment on pay as you earn corporation tax due for April, May, June, and yeah, those 3 months will be delayed. The other is on VAT. China has also cut down the VAT payments. I remember it was around 1 percentage point. That's close to 100 basis points. These are two issues that if you're having a stimulus, it is not enough to defer.
Yes.
But in my view, you need to just cut down this particular basis points. In just under 2 minutes, I'm being held by my director to wrap up. Just wrap this up for us. Farida is actually almost coming in.
And Sega, our people must realize that these things are only hidden in English. The answer is nsalirako. Bwe nkusalirako singa obadde olina ky'ozzogula ne nkugamba nti nganze atunda kati gavumenti etunda musolo gwe gwayo bw'ogigamba nsaliraako kitegeeza osigaza ssente mu nsawo yo. bw'aba abadde atunda 8,000 n'agamba nkutundiziza 5 osigazza 3 kati gulinga omusolo gavumenti ekuggyako z'oyina yo yeeyimirizeewo. kati gavumenti eno bw'ogigamba nti nsaliraako reduce for me, bw'oba obadde okima 5,000 kima 3 kitegeeza ekulekedde 2. For those of you, I wanted to put it in the local language so that you understand. Bino ebintu tuleke bikweka mu luzungu aboga VAT gundi omuntu waffe wa bulijjo tategeera nti basebo ne banyabo value added tax bamuteeka ne ku soda gwonywa ne ku mazzi gwonywa airtime gwogula. Government bwejjako siringi 100 ku buli kyobadde ogula kitegeeza eba ekulekedde siringi 100 mu nsawo. Gavumenti yaffe teyakendezezza musolo. Gavumenti bwekendeza omusolo sente ezireka mu ngalo zo. Kakati gavumenti bwegamba balandi road nti ate mugoba batenanti mayumba kirungi, naye singa gavumenti egambye nti nammwe temutuwa musolo guli ogwa rental income tax naffe twefiiriza. So gavumenti ya Mwami Museveni yo tefiirwa naye gwe negamba gwe fiirwa. Okitegedde kyegamba. So this government is telling you mwongezeeyo bw'aba abadde wakusasula leero akusasula enkya naye eryo nalyo liba bbanja. Kati kibanga okugamba if you are supposed to die today, die tomorrow. The issue is postponing your collapse. Eyongezaayo enfaayo egiwanvuyiza abadde alina okufa ku Monday fa ku Lwakusatu. But the answer, just a second, the answer olina okufa. You'll ask me as a lawmaker, what should you do? We do not have the majority. Basebo ne banyabo kino kye tubasaba. Bwe muba mulonda nga mutuddeeyo mulwane nnyo okutuweereza abawerako abayinza okufaananako nga ffe. Si ffe tusinga okutegeera ennyo naye tugamba bye tubayambako mu bino. Bwe twegatta abangi tuyinza okukyusa eggwanga lino. Naye bwe tunaaba tetwegasse bangi, we might not change this country. To our fellow countrymen, if you, as a lawmaker, I know we can do a lot because we go through this budget, but we do not have the numbers. I wish you give us more people of our caliber, but we are only about 50. The others are 300. Whatever they want to pass will pass because they have that majority. The only thing Ugandans can do, help us give us that majority, that supermajority. You give us that supermajority, then you can demand, make more demands from us that, listen, this is what we gave you and this is what we expect from you. At the moment, we can only tell you what you see and help you explain it in better ways. Fighting for it, we can try to get off a little.
Definitely. Many thanks for that, Muhammad Nsereko. Who's,
but I can, just a second, if you give me one remark. Fellow Ugandans, I can tell you the state of the nation that was delivered yesterday is not reflective of what exactly is the true state of the nation that you are living in. It's only up to you. Who of you has lost a job? Who of you up to now cannot pay their utility bills? Who of you cannot start up a business? Who of you cannot access cheap capital? The president talks about the Uganda Development Bank. How many Ugandans have the collateral and business proposals to present to the UDB with that 1 trillion? The biggest example, and access that cheap capital that he's talking about. all Ugandans can only access these commercial loans that you also know are a huge burden on all of you. Many Ugandans are living in fear of foreclosure of their property. Most have lost employment. Tourism and let's say private schools. If private schools go a full year without doing work, I can tell you the suppliers at those schools, the teachers cannot be paid, the other staff cannot be paid. You're talking about 600,000 people. In tourism, the drivers, the askaris and the others, those that were involved in the airline industry are going to collapse. You're talking about another 2 million people. And then with these hard, unthought, unreasonable measures in the public transport, you're going to see another loss of about 3 million jobs. And for Ugandans who do not think that this is a cycle, if these people lose their jobs, even if you build a house, even if you have that money to construct a house, and there is a Ugandan that cannot pay for that house because they don't have the real income, even if your factory is open and there is a Ugandan that cannot pay for those goods, you'll also collapse. Therefore, postponement of credit, failure to give people part of their social security, the 20%, failure to address people's loans, people's insurance, will only culminate into high rise of crime, unemployment, and at the end of the day, poverty will attract diseases, diseases will attract discontent, and Ugandans will lose in the long run. Therefore, the state of the nation is not the true reflection of what Ugandans are today and where they want to go. That is all I can say.
Honorable, again, many thanks for making time to speak to us. That
Thank
was
you,
the Kampala Central MP, that's Muhammad Nsereko, just summing it up. That's where we leave it for this edition of Morning at NTV. Arnold Sagawa here with you. Do stay with us. Farida Nakaziwe is coming next with Mwasu Zomtia.